Hi again, and welcome back to many. Welcome for some, for who I haven't seen before, so that's lovely to see. And a huge, huge thank you to Carol for hosting our picnic last week. It was hot but fun, and it was nice to get to know some people that came in. So, I don't know if any of you looked at the website this week, but I'm sure you probably looked at your program that says, hi-ho, it's off to work, we go. This is Labor Day weekend, so of course I couldn't resist putting something in there about work. And we do, of course, have work to do. We have work as a church, we have work as individuals. As I was thinking about it, I thought, okay, should I talk all about Labor Day and social justice and things like that? Should I talk about our work as a congregation and as a church, what we have to do ourselves within Bethel, what we have to do when we're breathing out and going into the world, or what? And so that led on one of my thought trains to my whole upbringing and education about work ethics, and to what I was then told a little later about how I should bring up children, because I know that you know that I don't have any here. What you might not know is that I have two fully grown stepchildren back in Oklahoma and Louisiana, children of a former partner. One is 30 and one is 28, I think, now. And so, of course, bringing them up was in the time when we were being very enlightened about bringing up children. We knew that it was damaging to force children into a narrow mold of our own expectations. We heard all sorts of things about young people who would hear nothing about, whose parents would hear nothing of you going into a career in, say, acting or music. That just really won't work. But instead, they demand that the children take over the family's plumbing supply company or something like that. I myself have had many young music students who were given music lessons because that's a good thing to do, but who, if they had some sort of spark about, I'm going to be a professional musician, the parents were, oh, no, you're not. You're going to go get an MBA. You can do beautifully and get all the scholarships for music and all these sorts of things, but when you use them to go to college, you study business. Very, very common. But at the time, we were bringing these kids up. We didn't do that. We thought, okay, it's not about money, it's not about prestige, it doesn't matter what you do, it only matters that you find a job that is meaningful for you. It only matters that you are happy and fulfilled. That's kind of coming back to bite some of us. Right? A lot of these now grown young people complain that, right, go out and find a job that will make me happy. How easy is that? That is a difficult and just about unattainable expectation. It's really hard to find a job to do that provides our income, that at the same time can be our passion. It is very, very difficult. And if you choose to do a job that is your passion, unless your passion is buying and selling corporations, you're probably going to have a very difficult time making a living. I've had all sorts of ups and downs. In the 80s, I was on the first call list for all the studios. Did all the cool movies, you know, Short Circuit 2, Black Friday, all these things, just wonderful films. Big orchestra films. There are now about 50 people that get called in Los Angeles to do film scores. That's it. There were hundreds when I was doing this. Same thing for composers. Lots of calls. Most of them want the music for free. For the glory of having your name on the film. I don't think so. Okay, you know, so it's a tough road. Church organist, pianist, accompanist. Britt's still here. He's got some really good opportunities that I think are just going to pop for him next week. He's done the audition for one. He has another one this week. They're both really good positions. We're really thrilled that he got through all of the stuff to get to the place where he gets to go and actually play. Now, I want you to get that Newport Beach church job, but boy, will I miss you. Okay. But you guys know firsthand how hard that's been for him. All summer he's been looking. Right? So it's hard to find a job doing something you love. So this weekend, it gives us a good opportunity to reflect upon the subject of work. My parents were Depression-era kids. They were really hard workers. Mom was a teacher. Dad worked for Eastman Kodak. He was not in the creative end of it. He was in the warehouse for 40 some odd years after being in the Navy, after being a Red Arrow bicycle messenger boy downtown. Really hard workers, really hard workers. And they brought me up that way. I entered the workforce when I was about 13, and I pretty much haven't stopped since. And so that Protestant work ethic, they were Methodists and Presbyterians by background. The Protestant work ethic brought over the Atlantic gives us a framework for labor. It calls it one of life's highest moral values. According to that work ethic, work is intrinsically good. And in the 40s and 50s, the belief was that you would be rewarded for hard work easily. Not easily, not that the work was easy, but that you would get your reward and you wouldn't lose it. We've found out differently, of course. You can work really hard, have what you think is a pension, and lose it through no fault of your own. There was a verse in Proverbs that said, "Do you see those who are skillful in their work? They will serve kings. They will not serve common people." So we even see a verse in the Bible that says, okay, if you're really good at what you do, you get the really good jobs for it. A while ago, I was approached to write an article for a trade paper about how fortunate I am to have what I consider to be, well, I was going to say one, I should say 2 or 3, of the best jobs in the world. I love what I do. I love what I do here. I love what I do as a performing musician. I love what I do as a teacher. So for me, the line between work and pleasure is completely blurred. You know how people say, leave your job at the office, go home and have some recreational time. I can't do that. I love to read the scriptures and study. I love to practice my viola. I love to play the piano. I love to I can't leave the work. It is who I am. I'm lucky about that. Teachers, you can't leave your work in the classroom, can you?
No, you don't.
You can't. You love those kids. You may get really angry at the school district about ridiculous stuff you have to do that doesn't educate those children, but you love that teaching, and you're constantly preparing yourself for that. Tom, you love what you do, I know it. I love talking to Tom about what he does, because he has a real passion for it. You know? I could say that about almost all of you. You know, I really could. So, when I think about that relationship between faith and work and pleasure, I tend to do that from my own experience. And what I think is that God wants us to find a vocation, not just a job, a vocation, which comes from a Latin word that talks about calling. The voco, the use your voice, the call. vocation, a calling. There's a verse in Ecclesiastes, chapter 5, verse 18, for those of you Bible nerds, that says, "This is what I have seen to be good. It is fitting to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil with which one toils under the sun, the few days of life God gives us, for this is our lot. Likewise, all to whom God gives wealth and possessions, and whom he enables to enjoy them, and to accept their lot and find enjoyment in their toil. This is the gift of God, to find enjoyment, fulfillment in our work." Is that possible? Good question. That's a very noble sentiment, yes? But now, it's come to be kind of elitist. We have a lot of people who just have to get a job, any job, whatever it is. Not all of us are so lucky as to be able to have a job, a position, a vocation in that which is really our passion. Some of these we call dead-end jobs. They give little intrinsic satisfaction, and the irritations kind of outnumber the things that we enjoy about those jobs. That's probably really always been the case. You know, probably always have somebody doing jobs that they don't really like. And there's a lot of evidence that the writer of Ecclesiastes, who talked about all of this wonderful enjoyment and toil and all of that, was part of the elitist crowd. So, from a theological point of view, how do we look at this? One of the whole basic tenets of Protestant Reformation was that all work had value. The priesthood, royalty, they don't really enjoy more of God's favor, according to that theology. One can serve God authentically as a farmer, a merchant, a laborer. Even just presiding over a meal that you have cooked is every bit as sacred as presiding over the communion table. Currently in the news, we see fast food workers of our nation trying to unite and fight for fair and living wages. Some of them barely get by, and then they've been told they're going to be paid by a debit card, which carries all sorts of fees. And even though someone who earns a lot of money might look at those fees and say, "Oh, that's only $5 or $6 a month," that could be the difference for a couple of meals for their children. A lot of people who frequent the fast food establishments are appreciative of the workers. But there are many who are not. I witnessed something just last week, and I was just so disappointed in this person. I had just gotten my food and I was leaving, and this woman came storming in, just totally irate. She said, "Ketchup! I told you no ketchup! No ketchup on my sandwich, and you gave me ketchup, and I had to come back in and get this right." And the poor girl behind the counter was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Here, let me. What kind of sandwich? What did you want? And what, you know?" And the manager came up, and everybody was just falling over themselves to please this irate lady. And she would have none of it. She continued yelling and ranting, and "I'm going to call the company, and I want to see your manager," and just on and on and on. They gave her a new sandwich, and refunded her money, and took off the ketchup, and all of that kind of thing. But this went on for several minutes while they were trying to solve this problem. Even the manager at the fast food place doesn't really get paid all that well, you know? So I thought, this whole scene is completely embedded with disrespect for a human being and for the people who work in that industry. It's a service industry, and it's worthy of respect. I did my share behind a counter. Now, it was a Woolworths, and I made sundaes and grilled cheese sandwiches. It wasn't a McDonald's, but I was so appreciative when someone said a word of appreciation to me. And when I saw this last week, I thought, you know, one of our jobs is to be respectful of these people and to smile. And you don't have to hand them a gospel tract or anything like that, but just be the authentic person you are, filled with God's Spirit, appreciating other people, meeting their eyes and saying, thank you. Yeah, you paid for it. Say thank you anyway. You know? just say thank you. Who was it? I think, Carol, I was talking to you about Mother's Day. When we're at restaurants in Mother's Day, I actually avoid restaurants on Mother's Day, but it's the busiest day of the year. Some people are kind of tense. Maybe the family gathering is scary for them, you know. But the servers are just working their tails off, trying to get everybody served. And if you take just a second, not to delay them, of course, but just as they're handing you your food to say, thank you so much, you're doing a great job. You'll make their day. Give whatever tip you can. Please don't go out after church on Sunday and not tip. Okay? but do what you can to show your respect and your appreciation to other human beings. So all that introductory stuff brings me to one of the really big first points about a Labor Day sermon, which is valuing other people and the jobs they do. The second point is harder and bigger, and that is to do what we can to create satisfying jobs. If you have a job you love, that's lucky. Be grateful. You're probably in the privileged minority. I know there are probably a few people in here who might not look forward to going to work every day. Sometimes the relationships on the job can be even toxic. Sometimes you're underpaid, you don't have job security, you feel exploited, unappreciated. As you know, some of us went on strike at university faculty last year, right? Other people looking from the outside might think that was ridiculous. We're getting some money, we're getting some benefits, what are we complaining about? We're complaining about promises broken. We're complaining about many, many years since any changes. You know, I was still appreciative of my job, but I could understand that there were things that were not fair. I constantly have to teach overloaded classes instead of being allowed to teach an additional class, which would be an additional amount of pay. Right? So if I teach 2 classes, I get a certain amount of money. One of those classes might have 70 people in it. And what I should have is 3 classes. The one with 70, that should be 2 different classes. And if I have 3 classes, that means my pay is different. Okay? So that's one of the things we were complaining about. So let's work for fair and satisfying jobs in whatever way we can. I know you're not all employers. I know that you are not necessarily rich millionaires that are going to go out and create a factory or a new business to hire people. But we can support the activities that create those jobs. We can work for justice in the workplace. Even as simple as going to the fast food restaurant and being appreciative of what we get. We can write letters to encourage employers to do the right thing. As Christians, we have some influence in the secular world. We can advocate for a higher minimum wage. We can write a letter and see what we can do. We can support people. But the most important thing about who we are and what our work is that our work, our vocation, is living as a Christian and upholding those values in whatever we do. When I was a teenager, I wandered away from the very boring Methodist church where every Sunday was a fashion show and nothing else. If there had been something else, I probably would have stuck around, but it really was just about who had the prettiest dress that week. So I left there, and I went to various other things, like youth rallies in the park and stuff like that. One of them had a preacher, and I went a couple times and I stopped going, who always had this altar call at the end of the service, calling all the young people, inviting people to dedicate their lives to full-time Christian service. Now, what he meant by that was if you were going to be a missionary or a preacher or a full-time youth minister or something like that. And personally, I think that's bad theology. Christ has called us all into full-time Christian service. Not just those who preach in church, not just those who become missionaries overseas, but every single one of us is called to full-time service for Christ. When you're getting ready to officially go into ministry, in the United Church of Christ, there's a group called Section A. They are sort of a credentialing committee. This is not the horrible Section B about which we spoke. This is Section A. And what they do is they kind of vet candidates for ministry. They'll interrogate you about what is your call. They want to know how you know you're destined to do this. Well, I understand that. And I'm actually going to be meeting with Section A this Tuesday evening. I actually have some questions in general about this concept because I still believe that we are all called to be ministers. Perhaps it's just a matter of semantics. We'll talk about that. But we are really all called. We all have distinctive gifts, and it's our job to use them. For some of us, it's to preach and teach. For some of us, it's to pray. For some of us, it's just to be there and listen to somebody else. For some of us, it is to be receptive to the moving of the Holy Spirit and to minister to one another in a healing manner, whether it just be emotionally or even sometimes physically. We all have gifts, and we're called to use them. There's a story about a construction worker who was building a new church. The priest came by and said, "I just learned about your brother. He's a bishop, right?" And the guy said, "Yeah, I have a brother who's a bishop." And the priest says, "And you're a bricklayer. It's a funny world. Things aren't divided evenly in life, are they?" Bricklayer said, "No, they sure aren't. My poor brother couldn't do this to save his life." We needed the bricklayer, and the bishop, and the priest. So we are all meant to do whatever job we do. Whatever job we are in, we're all meant to do that to the glory of God. We are all called to be a certain kind of person in the world. Dorothy Sayers wrote, the first demand the church should make of a carpenter is not that he go to church on Sunday, nor that he not get drunk on his day off, but rather that he make good tables. One step further, that he be a good person. I don't want to encourage him to go get drunk on his day off. But whatever you do, Teacher Donna teaches those little children to the best of her ability. She has integrity in what she does. Sherry, math, right? The best she can do. Santiago knows exactly when to carry that kid out the door. I was so delighted to find out that Santiago and Teacher Donna are back together. Tom works on those machines to the very best of his ability. Georgette helps run the business that way. Mardo, when he works here, he's working for God. Virginia acts. Britt plays. I do this and that. Okay? But everything we do should be done as if we're doing it for God. There's a verse in Philippians that says, it's 4:8 if you want to put it on your Bible nerd list. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. I would like us to make that our job description. As an employee, I will make it my job to be truthful. As Matthew says, let my yes be yes and my no, no. As an employee, I will make it my job to be honest. I will make it my job to have the right attitude. I will do my work as if to make my boss say, I love it. I will make it my job to be admirable and to expect no less than excellence in my work, to be worthy, my work to be worthy of praise. I know there are employers who are unethical, and I won't work for them. I know that there are sometimes things that people are asked to do in their jobs that are not right, and I believe that they should stand up for what is right and not do what is wrong. I don't believe that conflicts with being honest and ethical and noble and doing our work to the best of our ability. I think that is all one focus. I read a meditation as I was preparing for this week, and I want to read some of it to you. Not all of it is too long, but just a little bit. I live today because someone has labored. I live today because many, many people have labored. On this Labor Day, I give thanks for them. I eat today because someone served, someone cooked. A grocer sold me food, or a local farmer at a farmer's market sold it to me directly. A distributor provided food to the grocers. A laborer tilled the soil. Another farmer planted and planned. Years before that, someone prepared and cared for that very soil. I wear clothes today because someone else sewed. Someone designed. Someone developed the store, and someone marketed and advertised and kept the books and answered the phones. I wake up in a house that someone planned and built. Someone financed, someone loaned, someone brokered. I used money that someone paid me. Someone advised the investments, someone did the banking, someone else, or me, arrived to repair plumbing and wiring and appliances. I drive a car that someone built. Someone marketed, someone built the factory. I use public transportation, buses and trains that someone else built, someone planned, someone else sold the bonds, and someone else drove. I live in a city that somebody manages, somebody leads, somebody polices. Someone administers and protects and cleans and keeps the utilities going. Someone teaches students who will be my neighbors and future laborers with me. Someone provided all the communication devices and techniques around us. I am alive today because someone diagnosed an illness earlier in my life. Someone nurses, someone prescribes medicine, and attends to medical emergencies and my future health. I wrote these words on a computer that someone researched and developed. Someone labored for the electricity that powers it. I read a book that someone wrote. I read a newspaper that someone laid out. For all our industries, someone fabricated the designs, mined the metal, built the machines, recycled the metal. Someone developed the commercial building that houses offices for all those workers. Someone sold the land. My soul is inspired today because someone sang, someone painted, someone wrote, someone kissed me. Someone preached, someone taught, someone challenged me. I live a fruitful life because many, many people have labored. I know that they did not always labor for me in particular. Maybe they labored because they needed a job. Maybe they labored because they loved someone and wanted to help them. But their labor has also helped me. There's even more. But we get the point. We are all connected. We all work together. And our job is to do our jobs well, truly, as for Christ. And one of our jobs is that vocation to be a minister for God in our community. Amen. In your bulletin, I just want to point out on the bottom of the second page, there is a meditation and prayer topic for you for this week. It says, all our labor together is what makes a society, a culture, a civilization. Give thanks for that labor, for each and every vocation that God has given each and every one of us. For those without jobs, pray for their quick relationships with a fruitful vocation. God wants each of us not just to have a job, but to have a vocation, a calling through which we can be proud that we are serving the world. When our labor makes a positive difference in the world around us, we truly have a vocation, and vocations working together create a beloved community. Give thanks for those vocations. Give thanks for each and every one of you who serve. So that's this week's little meditation minute.